What's going on, everybody? This is your man Cam, aka Coolest Kid Out. I want to welcome you all to Handcrafted. Handcrafted is my storytelling podcast where I'm going to have thoughtful conversations with my friends about their lives, about how they built their craft, how they've come to be the amazing people that they are. It's not an interview. It is a conversation. I feel like I have just powerful and enlightening conversations with my friends all the time, whether it be in person, on the phone, nowadays via Zoom. And the thing about me that I think has always resonated is I'm not a selfish guy. And I think that these conversations can be beneficial to, people who don't know us, people outside of our circle of influence, people outside of our social circles. So I think that it's important that we bring these conversations to the light because I've learned from them. I know I can learn more from them. I know that other people can learn from them and take from them. And yeah, this is something that I've been sitting on for almost 2 years and have wanted to put it out into the world. So again, welcome to Handcrafted. I'm super excited for my guest, one of my best friends. We go back without dating ourselves with numbers. We go back to flight jackets, tall tees, Jabot denim.
It's reading my filth right now, dragging me.
Headbands when we weren't playing any sports. Man, we go back a long time, and just one of the most thoughtful people I've ever met in my life. One of the most brilliant, most witty, and just a true gem of a person. One of my best friends, marketing, branding, partnership extraordinaire, Mr. Dela Yador. Welcome.
Thank you, my brother. First of all, I'm proud of you for kicking this off. Some of the best ideas don't kick off until you're ready to unveil them to the world. So thus we're here. Yeah. 2, you always need friends to laugh at your jokes. So I appreciate you. That shit's important. The confidence in comedy is very important. Yeah. So I appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
thank
man.
you.
No,
Good
thank you. Thank you, man. It's great to have you. And again, want to keep this super conversational. We talk damn near every day, absolutely every week. And one thing that I've always appreciated about our conversations and our friendship is the depth of where we go. And in just a random checkup call, or a random call about some work thing, we just go so many places. And the way you've always been so thoughtful in your perspective and your unpacking of things, I've learned a lot from you. So to have you as technically my first guest is going to set the proper tone for where we want to go with this, because like this platform is an educational one to me and an informational one, but also entertainment. And yeah, to have you here in this space is amazing for me. So thank you, man.
Appreciate it. I'm all about edutainment, right? You gotta mix them both.
You taught me that word too.
Listen, we're here. Yeah, when you share something, you don't lose it.
That's a fact.
That's it. A fact. Yeah, no, it's good to be here. This is a great. This is excellent. Let's get to it. I'm ready.
Yeah. So, I want to start in a random but not a random place. And you've had quite the journey, but I want to start with 7-year-old Dela. Where is he? What does he see? What is he like? And just what does he feel?
Whew. All right, right to it. 7-year-old Dela is in the Bronx, 180th and Tremont exactly. It's actually Van Ness, the neighborhood. It's 1990, so the jig's up. You know my age. We're here. Everything's fine. It's 1990. I'm living with my mom and my dad and my 3 sisters. I have 5 sisters. but I was living with 3 of my sisters at the time. And, my family's West African. We're from Ghana. Dad got here 79. Mom got here 81. And I'm absorbing it all, man. I'm going to Catholic elementary school. I'm one of the, we're one of the families who are going to church every Sunday. And, the neighborhood's diverse. It's Italian, it's Irish, it's Hispanic, it's a little bit Jamaican. Not as much African. Most of the Africans are in Parkchester, but it's still, still the Bronx, still community-based. And I'm taking it all in. I remember there were mornings that I was actually, Saturday morning, we get the newspaper delivered, and I remember drinking coffee at a really young age. It's on brand. Yeah. I'm drinking coffee at a really young age. I haven't really touched coffee since, 4th grade.
So you got to know how nasty it was.
Yeah, I had my fill. I'm good. We've moved on. We've grown. But yeah, man, I'm watching cartoons. I'm a kid. It's 1990. That's the year House Party came out. But I didn't see House Party because I didn't see House Party until maybe 3 or 4 years later.
Gotcha.
Because my oldest sister, Grace, she was actually the one that got me hip to hip hop. Watching Video Music Box, Channel 25 with the hanger out the TV. Ralph McDaniel.
There's so much culture.
Yeah, there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy. Hey, yo, you think about the mixture, just being West African. My parents did a pretty good job merging the Western with the West African tradition. We had African food, banku, okra soup, fufu, red banku, crab.
Agusi or no Agusi?
No,
okay.
that was a must be.
Okay.
Yeah. Jollof, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. But that, notice how I mentioned that last because there was so many other dishes in the repertoire, right. And but we still, McDonald's occasionally, pizza occasionally. I was an active kid who played in the park, played outside. Definitely played outside. Got into trouble too, but that's to be expected growing up. And the world is like an oyster. I'm just seeing everything. My second grade teacher was Miss Belfiore, and it was like a 30 kid class, and we had the same. The Catholic school was I don't remember how many, maybe 100, 300 students, but everybody had the same class. Yep. We all had the same subjects together, but yeah, man, that was my 7-year-old experience, second grade, 1990.
Got you. So we're gonna talk a lot about influence in this conversation, and you just mentioned a lot of different things in the stew, right? In the stew of Dela. So you have West African, Ghanaian, you have the Bronx, you have Catholic school, you have all of these factors already happening at a young age. Can you just talk a little bit about how, from an early age, how all of that mix of culture, how it influenced you, and how it poured into you being the person that you were then and even still are now?
There's a portion of that kept me humble. Okay. Kids are creative. So there weren't many African kids around, but I look black. I am black, right? So it's it's that demo and then the psychographic that comes with it. So for me, I think growing up in that time, it was just so many different influences around that if you didn't know who you were, you could get lost in any one of them. So what my parents, I think, did a really good job of, they ended up splitting in 94, but they did a pretty good job of helping me be based in faith. And then, just being sort of disciplinarians. There really wasn't a lot of rope for me to get crazy at 7. I wasn't getting detention. I wasn't an angel, but I was pretty much walking that line. So had to have that home foundation. Otherwise, I could have easily gotten lost in the sauce. Right. I could tell you a number of kids that got caught up. I could tell you a number of kids that I grew up with that ain't here anymore, that just for XYZ, wrong place, wrong time. Right. I don't talk about it too much, but I'm never afraid to talk about it. It's just, So yeah, I think my parents did a pretty good job of keeping me in line, and then my sisters as well. My older sisters sort of became co-parents to a certain extent, even though they were, they went to Clinton High School in the Bronx, you know what I'm saying? So I had a lot of people to look over me, even though I had a lot of like women around me, but they helped guide me as well. That was really important.
Yeah. So you speak about energy a lot, right?
Not always under the influence, but I promise.
But I feel like as I'm listening to you, you speak about the woman energy in your life, and I have the pleasure of knowing your sisters, and for you growing up in where you grew up and how you grew up, and like you said, even seeing certain friends of yours go another way, how important was the centering, and like how much were you centered by your sisters who were, like you said, they were kind of co-parents, but they were already out in the world, experiencing eventually what you were going to experience to an extent. So like, how did that help? Because your parents, being your parents, like, right, it's only so much commonality you have with your parents.
Yeah.
How did your sisters help you adjust or even like kind of maneuver through your younger years?
Yeah, it's interesting because there was a gap between my sisters and I. My older sisters, don't kill me, Grace, 48. Well, I'll share just. Damn it. Everything's
Sorry,
fine.
Grace, we can edit.
Don't leave that in. We got to keep them humble. And my next oldest sister, Amelia, who's in London, a couple years younger. So I'm 37. So there's like a 10, 11 year gap. So my mom was a registered nurse. My dad worked at Edgecombe Correctional Facility, he head chef, and he also drove a taxi cab. So my sisters became next of kin, Like I remember, like this summer, my older sister was telling me about how she used to bring me all the way from home to daycare at a young age, which is by BCC, Bronx Community College, the 40 bus straight down Tremont. And then she had to go back and go to school. And because parents were working, you know what I mean? There's a lot going on. So I do remember and recall, again, with the music, like, and just TV and culture, like it was them that were watching, like, I eventually watched Boys in the Hood in the 90s, you know what I mean? Like I was watching these movies that I wasn't supposed to be watching, but I'm glad I did, right? Like we all did things we weren't supposed to do, but at the end of the day, we all still had the right foundation from our parents, and it kept us, even when we were being kids, it still kept us in a good, safe place, you know what I mean? So, and I think parents, you don't ever want to allow, and I'm obviously, because I don't have any kids, right? But I think you always want to, be confident that you're teaching your kids the right thing. And there's some grace for being a child. Which is, I think, is just really important. And we got that. And again, I got to give my parents credit. Even though they ended up splitting up, they both did a pretty good job of balancing that Western with the Ghanaian background. So yeah.
And so, to me, it sounds like, one, you have great foundation, right? And foundation is just so key to anyone's life, or like anyone's career, anyone's relationships, like that foundational piece. And you mentioned how your sisters were putting you on to things, which is something we'll get to later with women are the actual tastemakers, right?
1,000%.
So even in doing all of this, right? So, and I want to move through your childhood and upbringing, but it's something important, I think, to point out through this is, what did your friend group look like when you were growing up?
Yeah, no, my friend group was my friends from school. My school was 3 blocks away from my building, so I had friends in my building, and most of my friends in the building went to PS 102, which was a block from my elementary school. So, Justin, Brandon, crossover, they all went to 102. They went to public school. I went to Catholic school, but on the weekends, we were all in the park. Manhunt, tag, basketball, football, baseball, Noble Park. We grew up in Noble Park. Nice. You know what I mean? Like, and Noble Park was right there, Bronx River Parkway. I'm sorry, Cross Bronx Expressway, which was connected to the Bronx River Parkway, and then it was Bronx River Projects. And my parents sent me to day camp summer day camp.
Same.
Yeah, it's mandatory. Like the only way we're gonna stay out of trouble, right?
Exactly.
So going to Bronx River Day Camp. There were 2 programs. It was recreation, which was you play all day and you hang out, and education. And you know which one the African parents sent us to? Education. So I was literally the SpongeBob meme in the classroom watching the kids play outside. We got to play a little bit, but I was watching a good time.
Yeah.
But we all got together, and my friend group was like, man, like we play run around in the building when it got cold. In the summertime, we were outside, had to be inside before the lights came on, which rarely happened. And, you know, one thing my mother would always say, if you're not where you said you'd be when I look for you, you're in trouble. Because there was always something going on. You could turn on Channel 5 News. Do you know where your children are?
Right.
Well, she wants to know where the kids are.
Right.
You know what I mean? So she needed to know my friend's parents. The ones that she didn't know, she had questions for, which I hated when I was younger. I get it now. I completely get it now. And, you know, my friends, like, we were just sports, having fun, you know, girls in the building, like there's a swimming pool, like there's always, like we were active, we were outside. I truly appreciate the concept of being outside, man. Like that is, I'll never take that for granted.
Yeah.
Especially now. Especially right now. Yeah, especially.
While we're in
what
the
a time to be
pandemic.
outside, especially. Wow.
And you lived in this huge borough in the Bronx, right? But your world was this confined space, as most people would say. It's like my block or my neighborhood. So like that was your world. So fast forward, and you go from this big city lifestyle that you're used to, right? You're used to your friends. You're used to even your parents' rules at this point. You're used to like the structure and all these things. And then you end up the I-90, lake effect snow, winter from about second week of October to about the second week of April.
Exactly. And maybe the third week of
April.
April.
Maybe the third week of April,
yeah.
which would mess up Springfest for a lot of us. You end up in Buffalo, New York.
Yep.
The first question, how'd you get there?
So there's probably a little bit that I left out, and I'll speed through this part.
No, take your time.
So I lived at where I lived in the Bronx. You've been there.
Yep.
Express bus down to
Express bus, styrofoam cups.
Styrofoam to-go cups. On the express bus, the last express bus down to 21st Street. Then we hopped in Strata or Crimson or whatever they called it.
Shout
what
out
a time.
to old New York City.
Oh my
man.
goodness, that happened. But like when I was younger, when my parents split in '94, I moved with my mom and my sister to Soundview.
Okay.
So we lived on right by Western Beef and the Cablevision building.
Very
Kennedy
familiar.
Fried Chicken, very authentic.
Very familiar.
Jifa knows it very well. We was at Kennedy a lot. We ate a lot of chicken. We kept them afloat. And so I was in Soundview for a little while. And then after that, we moved from Soundview back into an area around where I grew up, which is St. Lawrence, and we lived a couple houses from like Big Pun. So during that time, my world was opening up because I was getting different neighborhoods, meeting newer people, newer kids. Like it was kind of hot in Soundview. It's kind of hot by St. Lawrence because it was right around the corner from Beach Ave.
Yep.
So my world was opening up. High school, Lehman High School, was honestly some of the best years of my life because going from a Catholic elementary school to a public high school, which I easily could have been in Spelman. It was a big transition. Shouts to my mom. You know, I think being able to read certain things. I had Parasucos in 3-4 colors. So like it probably overmatched, but we're here. Everything's fine.
You made it out.
I made it out. I made it out. And, you know, she worked hard. She worked hard. And then I had to, you know, earn it on my own.
Yeah.
But high school, going to Lehman High School was such an eye opener for me. Because I went from being in a mostly Hispanic class, a little bit black, and me and a little bit Italian, to going to Italian, Albanian, Hispanic, black, Jamaican, and then just meeting all these people. Principal was really dope. Robert Leder, rest in peace. He was just a man of the people. He was like a leader. His last name was Leader without the A, but he was like a true leader. Like, he kind of showed what it was like to lead and to be about the business, make sure kids are going to school, but also be a colleague as well. He never felt like he was talking at us.
Right.
And
which is important.
It was important because it permeated through the faculty. It permeated through the security. There was a culture at Lehman High School that even if you were different, we were all part of the same community. And I've never lost that in any team that I've been a part of. It's always been about, what are we together? How do we come together? What are we here to do? Well, we're here to progress, grow, build, and learn about each other, right? So Buffalo, I actually thought I'd end up going to CUNY, staying in the city.
Okay.
College advisor didn't think that I had the grades to do it. And I took it at first as offense, but I think...
Just for context, what were your grades?
I was a good student. Like, I was like B's, couple A's.
Okay.
Math was okay.
Okay.
But I was like chemistry. Miss Duke was my chemistry teacher. She was dope. I'm telling you, high school was a good time. Like, I remember a lot of my teachers.
Everybody remembers everything about high school,
Yo,
no
high
matter how
school
old they get.
It was
because that's such a
fantastic.
pivotal time in your life.
You're forming, right?
Yeah.
And but I think she felt that I'd be better suited to stay local, probably because of the environment. And I think I was offended. I took that in an offensive way at first, and I locked in junior year. And upon showing her my acceptance letter to Buffalo, she smirked. And I was like, oh, shit, you were testing me, weren't you? Shit. All right, now I got to take this resentment and tuck it away. And Buffalo, New York, man, I learned so much.
So you get there.
Yep.
And you get there, right? And what was the first moment when you realized this is not the Bronx anymore?
It was really quiet in the summertime.
Yep.
Oh, North Campus.
This is your freshman.
This is freshman year.
Your orientation.
Orientation,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
It was very quiet in the summertime. Obviously, there's North and South Campus at UB. Stayed on North to begin. It was very quiet at night. There's so many kids that come from New York, but I wasn't EOP. I was CAP. No CAP. I was CAP. So CAP is College Achievement Program. Yeah. So it's all the bells and whistles minus the funding and the books and the computer. So basically, we're here.
Did you get a refund check or no refund check?
I didn't get a refund check early. No, because mom worked really hard, homeowner. So the financial aid setup was different. So you kind of getting it on your own, and but still grateful for the opportunity.
100%.
You know what I mean? 100%. And it was that there was no corner store. There was a store in Ellicott, but it closed early. There was Hubie's. I don't even know if Hubie's is there anymore.
Probably not.
I'm sure it's not. Actually, we could be positive. Probably isn't.
Ubi's getting too much money. Someone's bought into it. It's just
you see the energy. You see the growth. And it was just more quiet. When you live in the right next to the Cross Bronx Expressway, noise becomes your soundtrack. And there was very little of that in Amherst. Maybe more of that in the South Campus, Goodyear, Clement, and all that. Right. But yeah, that was the initial difference. The people were diverse, even more diverse. And it was just, there were so many kids from one of the first people I met was Nelly. Nelly and Kelly.
Shout out to Nelly.
Kelly. And Kelly. Red. Shouts to Red and Nelly.
Uptown's finest.
100%, yo. And I felt like, got me a little bit more acclimated into school, even though the first year was a little bumpy for me, but they got me more acclimated,
So you get to Buffalo. It's foreign territory for you, and you start to get comfortable. You start to build some tribe, and start to get a little more comfortable. It usually takes you. Everyone says for college it takes you your entire freshman year to get acclimated to where you are, and then for some people even more so. So you do that, and you start to build this monster of a promotional group, right? And for those who aren't in the know or who just haven't given you your flowers, you ran the top promotional group in Buffalo called Class Entertainment, and it was inspirational to all of us promoters, right? Because that's what we were at the time. We were considered promoters, where you, I feel, had a businessman's mind from day one, and I think I want to talk deeper just into one, what was your mindset when Class Entertainment started? And we both know that things usually, after they start, they go a completely different route. They evolve. Things just go differently. Different people come in, like different variables start to come into the formula. Yeah. But I want to know more so about when you started. What was your mindset? What was the thought process behind it? Did you see a void that needed to be filled, and just like where were you with that?
Yeah, it was my barber in the Bronx when I went home. Shug, shouts to Sugar Bear. Mm-hmm. I told him, I just mentioned, I was like, listen, I would love to get into the party game. Mm-hmm. I think there's an opportunity because I think at the time in 2002, 2003. The good parties were primarily Greek ran.
Yep.
The good parties, right? It's primarily Greek, with the exception of Fast Life Entertainment with Ray and a few other promoters. Like the good parties, the quality parties, and quality, you talk about music, the women, the presentation, just overall comfort.
Music, women, venue.
That's the trifecta, right? Right. You can't miss any one of those three. You need all three.
Yep.
So I was just like, yo, I'd love to get into doing parties. And he was like, yo, my brother, L Boogs, he could definitely help you out and connect you. And my partner, Jay, shouts to Jay, and we connected. I went to his crib. He was he's in the Bronx as well. And I think at this point he had he had priorities. He had other things to handle. Transferred to Stony Brook from Buffalo.
Right.
But while he's in Stony Brook, we were talking about opportunities and what we could do. And he was like, yo, we should get into the party game. I'm like, all right, well, why not? And how are we going to set ourselves apart from what's out there? Well, we're going to do it with this standard. We're going to get the best venues. We're going to get the best music. We're going to, create the right strategy, and we're going to move forward. This is, I think I was like 19 or so. Yeah. Sounds about right. So we were like, we're going to call it Class Entertainment. A touch of class. We're going to add a touch of class to the party game. And I remember my boy Felix. Shouts to Felix.
Shout out to
Felix. Made our logo, and Jay envisioned it. It was like this guy with the platter, and he was serving like music, and he had like the handkerchief over his arm with the CE Class Entertainment. So it was man. I might have to start bringing some of them shirts back. They're 4X. They don't fit no more, but or they fit too well. But yeah, that was the beginning of Class Entertainment, and the thought process was we're gonna add value. It makes no sense for us to do what's already been done, so we're going to try to do it in a different way. We're going to bring the right DJs, which should connect me to L Boogs. L Boogs worked at RPM, Renee McLean's office, who did Mix Show Power Summit, and we went in there in suits. We suited up, and we pulled up, and Boogs looked at us like, why y'all wearing suits?
Yeah.
Like, we want you to know that we're what we're about.
Serious.
It's just like, it was just walk the walk, talk the talk. So we said we want DJ Enough. Like, DJ Enough's the hottest DJ on radio in the city, in the country. He's doing 106 in Park at the time. We want Enough. He told us Enough's price. Okay, we can't do DJ Enough. Who else you got?
Right. The humbling.
The humbling.
Quickly.
You shoot for the stars. You miss you. Hopefully you're in the clouds. And he's just like, yo, my brother Cass won. Been rocking forever. I'm telling you, this is it. So we remember booking Cass won. Our first party was September 3rd, 2004.
Legendary party. I was there.
Oh man, it was when it was called the Sphere.
Yes,
I'm grateful to get chills thinking about it and to have the opportunity to do something like that. Packing out a room with like 1,200 people when the capacity is like 1,000.
Yep.
But we're here. It's fine. And we kept that run going. Kept it going for a minute. Different venues. You know, we ended up doing the Pier. We ended up bringing enough eventually, and other DJs missed to see. The Pier, yeah, the Pier. You know the quick story about the Pier.
The Pier.
A quick story about the Pier.
I can do just an episode on the Pier alone.
Yo, because there was one
Pier.
alpha party at the Pier.
Yes.
It was in January. I don't think it was his Founders Day, but it was in January.
I want to say it was right after Raffaello and them crossed.
I'm sure of it.
Yep.
And that shit that's what party promoter dreams are made of.
Yes.
Like it was on the water, and the venue was amazing, and it was packed, and the lights and the sound, and you just sort of remember those moments, and you say you want to, emulate that your way.
Yep.
And the Pier, the owner at the time, I remember took Jay and I out on his boat on the lake. And I'd never really been on a boat that small, so the waters were choppy. Yeah. And we, the promoter also had the other bar on Main Street. I can't remember the name, but I just remember feeling like, man, this is what we got to go through to get this club, this venue. Let's do it. Yep. Did it broad enough. It was just a night, and just those moments. Just you don't ever. They say don't let your wins get you too high, don't let your losses get you too low. Those are one of the wins that are like, this is great, awesome, grateful. What's next? And sometimes you just move so fast that you don't take in the deep breath of the experience. But I felt like I did that at times. So that party game helped shape me. It helped shape me not only for the party promotion game, but also for politics locally in the school. Just being in student government, that was really helpful. Working with people. Having to sit in board meetings with administration, but then also switching out your suit in the office and then throwing your flight jacket on to go to Buff State and hand out flyers, which is where we linked up. Yep. And so there was that duality that I was playing around with, which I think I still run with that till now. Yep. Although now I'm doing far less code switching, and I'm doing a lot more. Coming as I am, and what's coming out of my mouth in a sweatsuit is exactly how it would sound in a suit. Yep. And that's been received pretty well, specifically because we're all working from home, right? So you're on Zoom.
And sweatsuits have become the thing.
Exactly. So you're doing great. Fantastic work. You are a model sweatsuit pioneer.
I like to think I was on the forefront of the sweatsuit revolution.
You are.
But you said a lot. But you said something, and I'm going off script at this point because it's a conversation. You are
not sipping, by the way. You don't lose your touch on.
I'm telling you, it's going fast. It's going fast. Thank you. I needed that to get my words right.
Energy.
You are an astute people person, right? I think anyone who has had the pleasure of just coming in contact with you has always felt, recognized, seen by you. And one thing I wanted to talk about is people and how you deal with people, right? Because we talk all the time, right? People are the ultimate variable, right? People are X in the equation always, right? You can have, if it's a party, you could have the perfect venue, you could have the perfect DJ, you could have, everything could be set up for success, right? And the people could come and just mash it up.
It's happened.
And it's happened, right? So people are the variable, right? And then you built this company on an idea and, a plan with Jay. And to accelerate that plan and to make it succeed, you had to bring people in. So how would you say, one, how did you develop, because you talked about your principal who made people feel like it was inclusive. They made people feel like we were all after the same mission. How did you acquire your people skills, and then working with a group of college kids like a Class Entertainment, how did that help you to evolve your people skills? And also with student government as well, right? Because you're saying you're playing both sides. It's like suit, sweat, suit. Whatever. So like you have this world that you're dealing with it. You have, the political world basically as like student government lead that you're dealing with it as well. So like, how does that all work for you?
Man, removal of ego.
Rule number one.
That lets you see things in a little bit clearer light. When you can sort of get out of your own way and not take things too personally.
Yep.
I've said it before. I'm somewhere between giving grace and saying, "Nah, fuck that." And that duality, I'm sort of like a bowling ball with bumpers. You can bounce back and forth depending on how you feel. You know what I mean? So, I think I think the interesting part of marketing is, marketing is essentially about meeting people, right? You either meet them where they are, you present them with something, and here's where you are. Is this something that will help solve a problem that you have, or help fix something? It's meeting people where they are, and then it's also meeting people where they want to be, which becomes aspirational. So I like to think in a few different cases, like when we're fighting for a medical center on North Campus. When I was president, that was important. Kids need this necessity to be taken care of if something goes wrong. They don't have to go all the way down to South Campus if they're not feeling well. That's meeting them where they are. Yep. Now, for class entertainment, it was, meeting them where they want to be. You want to release after a long week. And a big part of that meeting people where they want to be was making sure that we had the tools to move forward and create that. Yep. So the team was a massive part of that. Shouts to DeMar as well. Yep. DeMar and Jay Partners, Another Class legend. Entertainment. We had a team. Our team was very diverse. Yep. Our team was Asian. Our team was Dominican. Our team was Puerto Rican. Our team was black. Yep. It was male. It was female. We had to mirror the marketplace. Yep. Our team was white. Yep. You know what I mean? It wasn't like our parties weren't meant to be, it was more psychographic than demographic. Because when I look at the pictures, I'm like really humbled that people showed up to our parties time and time and time again. But it's because we presented them class, and then when they showed up, the shit was lit. And there was one time we had brought Mr. C up in 2006.
Busta Rhymes after party.
No, this is actually the first part of the year.
Okay.
The first part of the year.
I'm sorry. I just went right there.
No,
that was a moment. I went right there because that was after our spring. But go ahead.
But that was educational. That was an educational night.
That was at the height of Touch It.
Man, that was a Busta Rhymes. What was crazy about the time we brought Mr. C up was, we did ladies' night, and people thought we were crazy, because we were doing ladies free, and we're just like, yo, this is the give back. It was the first party of the January school year, second half of the year. But someone else was also throwing a party. And there's no beef. It's fine. I hope they're still around. Gorilla Entertainment. Shouts to you.
Fine, we're past the statute of limitations.
Okay, good. Everything's fantastic. We're fine, fantastic.
Shout out to Courtney.
Shouts to Courtney. Yeah, energy. Gorilla Entertainment, right? I remember we had Mr. C. We're ready to go. First part of the year. They were like, all right, we're gonna bring Fat Man Scoop and we're gonna do the Pleasure Dome. Pleasure Dome hadn't been cracked in a little while, so I remember they took out a full-page ad in the UB Spectrum with their party flyer, and it said, "There is no class tonight." And
ballsy.
And that was ballsy. I mean, that was fire. That was actually fire. I'm not gonna hold you. It's and I remember I got the paper, so I gotta find it. But I remember reading that, and you get this. There's this scene in Game of Thrones where. This guy, Reek, his name wasn't Reek, but he asked Robb Stark, he's about to go to war to avenge his father. He's like, his hands are shaking. He's like, are you scared, Robb? He's like, no. He's like, good. And Robb is like, why is that good? It means you're not stupid. And I think there's a little bit of okay, we got some competition. Yep. Stick to the plan. Yep. When you're in your own lane, there's no traffic. Yep. Do what you were always going to do. Don't try to do too much. Trust in what you've done, where you are and where you're trying to go. And we didn't have any problems that night. Yeah. But it was a reminder that just because you're at this spot doesn't mean you'll stay at that spot. And what you have can go away. So everything, you say it, Jay said it, treat everything like your first project, right? So we went into it with that energy every time, and every time felt like a new party. Even if it felt stale in the venue, we found new ways to up the ante.
Right.
And that's what you got to do with marketing.
Right.
Better to be your own challenger than be challenged.
Absolutely.
So look at your plan and how it can be tested. Do your SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, move forward, and build from there. But that class entertainment time was just so foundational. College as a whole was just very foundational for us as a group. I mean, so many people went on. Some people on the team went on to join the Greek organization. Some people went on to just do amazing things. Shouts to Shireen, like on the team as well.
Francis.
And Francis. So shout to Francis. Bronx, what up? And everybody on the team. It wasn't like Jen Veris. Like it wasn't like you're that, you're this. Everybody was like a part of something really special. It felt special. And we had T-shirts, hats, flight jackets. We handed out flyers. Promotional social media was creating a Facebook event group and inviting people. And 500 people said yes, 400 people said maybe. Like, y'all maybe coming, or you really coming? But
and then you got to question if the yeses are just saying yes, so you don't start messaging them and tagging up their wall. That era,
tagging up walls.
Yeah, tagging up. I was a wall terrorist, right? Like I used to, and like they let me discover copy paste. And I would just be every wall, and like to the point where I was double tagging walls. And I think like even like that, right? We talk about evolution, right? So we went from, which was something you put me on to, right? When you would order the 10,000 flyers from Miami or wherever, I forget the
Flyers.
Yeah, Miami Flyers. You would order the 10,000 flyers, right? And that was your strategy. Like, we're just gonna go and we're gonna hit every single walking body. Whereas when class was already like established and evolved and things were changing, you now had social media for the first time, which was Facebook. And that did change the game. So it changed marketing. It changed the way people think. And this isn't a question. This is just more so.
Absolutely.
Of
100%.
convo, right? We talk about evolving, right? And you even spoke to it where you're saying you kind of got to see where your spot is, see what you're doing wrong, see what you're not doing right, and be your biggest critic, right? And be your biggest challenger in the same token. So when social media came about, so this is Facebook. So this is probably what, 04?
04, 05.
Yeah, 04, 05.
05.
So Facebook comes along. What is that conversation like within your group? What is that conversation about with Jay? Like, what changes in your strategies? Like, what pivots do you make?
Honestly, I looked at it as a pizza topping as opposed to it being the cheese, because we still had to show up with flyers. We still had to look people in their eyes.
Still had to do the work.
Like, if we assume that Facebook, all of a sudden things would get easier, that's how you have an empty venue. Like, we still had to pull up. We still had to make the presence felt. And Facebook was an add-on, but it was by no means completely directional. It was more of, you get a feel, like you see the comments on the event page. Like after a while, the same people don't comment the same way, right? Because you got to think about the psyche. People are still respectfully still paying to get into a party. Like, so you got to still come with the same energy. So it was an add-on. It's not what it essentially is right now. Everything's on social media now. I mean, when there are, or before COVID, right? So, we stuck to the script because I think we knew the audience, and we thought about how it would make us feel if we were on the other side. There was an empathy conversation a little bit, which is why our prices for parties were so low. We spent more on talent and on the venues, and our prices for people to get in were low. But it evened out because we had the maximum amount of people there. There was no room left. We hit capacity. We made sure security was taken care of. We made sure there were bike racks, except for that, which wasn't our fault. That was when the first party we did together, Cool Kids Entertainment, Class Entertainment. It was the after party for Springfest, Busta Rhymes, Buff State. That had Disney, Walt Disney, Mickey Mouse, Magical written all over it. And oh man, that went terrible.
Yeah.
Somebody got sick online, on outside, because there was no bike rack. Somebody threw up.
Yep.
It became a ruckus. It turned into a brawl outside. Security shut the door when there was like probably 400 or 500 people inside. I was
going to say probably like half of the party was filled.
A little bit less than half. And it was a layup. There's never going to be there was never an easier party to pop than that. And it didn't. And that was humbling.
It was.
That was like, you thought in party form.
Like we really sat there. I remember the conversations explicitly between you and I. For those who we're not going to act like everyone knows what we're talking about, but Dela had his promotional group, which was Class Entertainment, and I had my group, which were called the Cool Kids. Go figure. And,
on brand.
And I'll say this: we did a few collaborative things in our day. Dela's group did not do collaborations, and for good reason. So the fact that they were able to take that risk with us, and we were able to, like he said, it was a layup to do, and for things to not go the way that they went, I think that was just a lesson for us, right? Back to the variable.
Yeah, the people. Yeah, it's just, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? And you always assume a risk when you put that.
Absolutely.
Like, I sold my car, my Dodge Neon.
The green Dodge Neon, I remember. That you used to sell CDs out of. I was going to get that in there.
Well, you can get it in now. I used to go to Lockwood Library and print out CD labels. I made mixtapes. I made R&B mixtapes. I was not singing. It was not my music. We had DC++ on campus where we downloaded music. So am I telling on myself? No statute of limitations.
Good. Statute of limitations.
Hey guys, I think I paid my debt in other ways. Everything's fine. I used to make CDs and go to the barbershops and the hair salons on Main Street and sell the CDs like 3 for $10. Mm-hmm. And I used to get the CDs from Best Buy. I used to burn the CDs out of like a two CD burner, 3 CD burner. Mm-hmm. And I used to print out the labels in Lockwood Library, order the CD slips, and just I went up and down. I was selling CDs. I was selling white tees. I was selling Scullies with the brims. It was a nasty time.
As long as they was feeling it, Dela was hustling.
It was moving. Yo, Christmas break, I go to 28th and Broadway, get the white tees, drive right back. That's it.
And cats were buying them.
They were, and that helped me fund some of the parties. You know what I mean? It was just. It was helpful. Yeah. And there was a need. Music wasn't moving the way as quick as it could. Mm-hmm. I had to into music, so I was just doing it that way. Label reps, I got you. Yeah. Well, I'll make it up for you.
You did them more service than disservice.
I hope so.
By getting it out there.
I hope so.
You have all these tools now, right? That you've built and you've developed over time. You go to school, you get your degree. You have all of this experience, right? So technically, you've already started your career. But you graduate, it's time to move back to New York and start your career, technically. What's going through your mind when looking for your career? What do you want to do? What are you looking for in an employer? Like, are you like, I need to make X amount of dollars, or I need to go somewhere where there's culture, I need to go somewhere where the majority of the people look like me? What's your thought as you're starting to attack what adult Dela is going to be?
I think because I've been surrounded by so much diversity in people, race, gender, sexual preferences, all across. There was a lot of diversity. Mm-hmm. I didn't really have specifics on culture. I just wanted it. I guess I wanted it to be culturally relevant, but the culture, I almost wanted it to mirror the culture that I had built with Class Entertainment.
Got it.
You know what I mean? Like we can be working towards something, but are we cool together? Are we aligned together? Are we moving together? And in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna just keep throwing parties.
Yeah.
And
it was working.
Well, I mean, not off rip, because I was still on the way back to New York. And then when I got there, I was like, okay, now I need to get a job, right? Mm-hmm. And then I ended up getting a job with VH1. Started as marketing coordinator for VH1 Soul. which was just a VH1 Soul. Rest in peace.
I was going to say, for those of them who don't know, what was VH1 Soul responsible for?
Man, VH1 Soul was like neo soul. It was one of the first You Ought to Know artists. Adele was one of the first You Ought to Know artists. It was in collaboration with VH1. Yep. So Angela Fisher and Michelle Breeze Johnson, shouts to y'all. Majima Pinkett, head of R&B at Spotify. She'll tell you all the stories. Like, it's so beautiful to be able to work with people and see them grow and level up and just win. And VH1 Soul was just a labor of love because our partnership budgets were non-existent. So it was like when we had to partner with Essence Magazine for Essence Music Festival, we needed to pull VH1 in. We needed to pull assets in from the big brother. You know what I mean? To thicken up the partnership. And I don't think I'm giving away too much. It's just you gotta add value to your partner when you're working with them. You know what I mean? Like it's super important. So from VH1 Soul, ended up getting promoted to be marketing manager for Centric, which was Centric was a combination of BETJ and VH1 Soul, which is now called BET Her. And we went from music videos primarily and music programming to like a little bit more programming, like different shows like Soul Train Awards came back on Centric. That was in Atlanta. That was really dope. And during this time, I'm in Buffalo booking all the DJs, like the heavy hitters, specifically Mr. C was like the big dog Pitbull exception because he's Mr. C, right? Because he's a legend. And so I'm running with Enough and Cass and all the guys and Freddie P, Carlos, Niles G, like we're outside,
all fam.
and like all family, and we're I'm doing 10 to 6 at MTV VH1, and then from 6 on, I'm out with the guys, and then doing it over and over again. So we're outside a little bit, and then we're there, and Opal. Which I can't take credit for discovering. That's actually Crossover
who
discovered it. And it was like, there's a really dope spot. The drinks are really cheap. DJ is we should try to run in there and get something going on. So I remember creating a proposal, giving it to the owner or to the GM. Read through it, said I'll give it to the owner. Gave it to the owner. I used my VH1 email and my title just to give some credibility to it.
Hack for all you guys out there.
Big hack. Just don't get caught out there too crazy, but hack. And they were like, "Now we're good. We're all set here. We got it covered." And I was there like, "There's nobody here on a Friday." So what did we do? We went anyway. We showed up anyway, got cool with the bartenders, got cool with TJ, who was the general manager at the time.
Shout out to TJ.
Shouts to TJ, man, because we used to pack it out, and then all of a sudden it was like, man, you bringing all these people here, might as well try to hold you down. He started cutting us into the bar. You were bartending. You were throwing parties there as well. Marcy was bartending, and it just became Opal Fridays. And that, I loved being able to bring everyone I knew there. I had high school friends there. I had college friends that had moved back there. It was just like, well, we're all here. Might as well just all link up together. But like the label reps were there. Like it was just a cool vibe. And just remember 2011 getting laid off from VH1 because I came back to VH1 and the BET, it's like friction. It's like two parents, right? When we're coming back getting laid off, humbling. Because you go from, like, you think about Buffalo, bigger fish, small pond. You come back to the city, you're home, but you're still a small fish in a big pond. You get bigger, and then you get humbled. So suddenly VH1 Dela is no longer VH1 Dela. Just Dela. But that's important, right?
Which is enough. But you didn't know
that.
that.
I didn't know that. I was like, damn, I'm all right. I gotta figure it out. Got hired back as a consultant for 2 years, and then I went into the partnership team. So I went from consumer marketing and media to partnership marketing, and that my boss Jess Park, who's amazing, who's now at the NBA. She's just dope. And one of my best friends, Mike, who's over at Netflix right now. I've been,
Mike's
one thing I could say, Mike is my guy. And I've been really blessed and grateful to be surrounded by like winning people, like winners, like, and it's not even winners in the sense of I'm gonna, stress you out or just right. They want the best out of you. They want the best out of themselves. You know what I mean? Like that. Like I've been grateful to be surrounded by that, and I pray I never take that for granted. I never take it for granted.
Yeah,
You know?
and I think something to be said about you that has translated through definitely since I've known you, but even from what you're telling us prior to, is you've built community everywhere you've been, right? Whether it be within your own neighborhood to college to post college, by whether throwing events or gathering people, you've always put an emphasis on community, but kind of building it the right way, right? I think you're really good at creating the space, but also protecting the space. Where did that click for you? Where like you realized not only did you enjoy bringing people together, but you enjoyed bringing them together in a certain way.
I had enough tryouts with it, with class entertainment, with student government, with quite frankly, the Knicks.
Fair.
You guys hurt my feelings, man. Like, shit is rough. Being a Knicks fan was rough.
Well, you might get Westbrook. Yeah, even still.
Yeah. I guess this is public now. I have had to renounce my Knicks allegiance for peace, because peace is better than being right, and we're never right. So. You kind of learn, culture is not just the word in regards to the lifestyle, culture in regards to sports, like the Yankees, the Lakers, the Patriots, even though the Giants got them twice, like, like building culture, winning culture, mentality, even when things aren't up, is mandatory. So I guess it was foundational in bringing people together, and it's chemistry, actually. Like, I think Barack wrote something in the New York Times after Trump got elected. He was just like, he was talking to his daughters, and that, there's a lot of people are complicated. The people are going through a lot of different things. It's not an easy fix. And he talked a little bit about democracy. But what I liked about that talk was that, putting people together is actually more chemistry. It's like a science a little bit. You got to protect rooms. You got to protect people. You got to create safe spaces, as safe as you can. And when you do that, people will be able to see it. It's one of those intangibles that you don't really, it's not a rebound or a point you could check, but it's an intangible there in the room. People know. So I'm grateful that people trusted me enough to create those spaces, and I still want to continue doing that. It's important. And it all starts from the same foundation. You change things, right? Because if you don't evolve, you're extinct.
Yep.
So we've gone from nightclubs in downtown Buffalo to bars on the corner of 52nd and 2nd to basements on the corner of 115 Pleasant to rooftops in Brooklyn to rooftops in Hollywood to riding bikes to the beach. To playing basketball in the gym, to playing flag football. Like, it's just, it's all the same. We all practice the same sort of, use the same ingredients. You know what I mean? So,
and that's huge, right? Because I want people out there to understand the importance of not only the who but the how, right? And the how you build your community is so important, right? Because what you're explaining to me is the difference between promoting and actually curating, right? Because if you're having a kickback season or a brunch for us, which are your spaces that you've built, you want to ensure that if you're inviting this person, that they're not going to disrupt what's happening in the space, right? But you also, beyond that, you want to make sure that this person is getting along with this person, or like, I think these two people would be dope, right? So it's like you're taking all of these different. I'm gonna compare everything to soup and to stew, because it's the easiest thing. So you're putting all these things into the soup, right? And like, you may put a little too much salt in it at one time, right? You may put too much garlic in it this time, but if you get the right amount of garlic, or if you get the right clove, you get the right Italian seasoning, you got a really good soup, right? And then everything that you put around it, i.e. the music, i.e. the venue, i.e. the spirits, it all works, right? But the people, like they're that piece. So knowing who fits where is so important.
Yeah, and it's almost like I speak in analogies.
Yeah, same.
It's
like soup, sports.
This is perfect. This is a great conversation. I speak in analogy because it's almost like you don't want to hold on to something so tight where no one can get in, but you want to hold on to it tight enough that it still feels like it comes from the foundation you created. Yes. So I try not to script too much of it. If I do have a script, it's just guidance.
Yep. It's a template.
It's a template, right? Yep. And it really comes to that removal of ego, but leading with love. Because leading with fear is more, in the influencer space, exclusive. You can't get this. That doesn't really, it creates a different type of feeling when it's the haves versus the have-nots. You look at like Dark Knight Rises with Bane, where, they were dragging the rich out from the, you know what I'm saying? So inclusive versus exclusive. That was one of the things that when I got into alcohol, I remember working with all the DJs, the heavy hitters, because a lot of them were Ciroc boys, right? Yep. Which is great. Yep. And I remember that Luck Be a Lady Tonight commercial, everybody getting off the private jet. Fire, revolution. Diddy was selling bottles like
2010 or 2011?
Man, it was early. It might have been. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it might have been the casino one where they got off the plane.
Exactly,
that was 2011.
Yep, because Ciroc Boys kicked off 2007.
Yep,
and there's something happening, right? There was this transition going from brands being like, look at me. Brands are like, look at me, I'm the man, to look at us. And I think that's where, we can do more together than we can apart. That's where community sort of taps in. And it's like, all right, what are we doing? Like, we can still have our space, but it's, the sensibilities are similar. I don't care about demographics, right? Demographics don't matter, but the sensibilities, the psychographics, like, are we leading with love? Like, those are, again, no scoreboards, no points on this scoreboard, but it's the intangibles, it's welcoming. And you got to create that because you want something to grow. Right. If it's exclusive, you can't grow, or people got to pay their way to get in. Right. That doesn't really
which creates a whole other set of problems.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, and the pay their way to get in is not specific, like you, because it's a business. Right. There's the I pay, you pay, they pay. Right. Remember, like, I could throw a party, I'll pay for everything. Everybody comes in, has a good time. I'm broke, but it's a legendary party. You know that well with Henny Palooza, right? I know it all
too well.
Right, exactly. the you pay, I throw a party.
Yeah.
And I charge you to get in, and we go from there. You know that very well as well. Yep. Or they pay, right? I create the space, I curate the room, I curate the vibe and the experience, I bring it to life. I have some type of end goal that a brand would want to be a part of. And I get them to pay for it. Yep. We know that very well as well.
We do.
You know what I mean? So it's like when you go, like, it's almost like the Banana Republic, Gap, and Old Navy, when you can kind of go through and figure out
all of these references. Like I said,
we've been saying this shit for 10 years.
This is a conversation literally that me and him have had for years on the phone. When I'm calling you to go through something about a partnership or like a frustration with a brand, and the fact that I know that's going to translate to everyone who hears this, and like just that it's valuable. But I didn't want to cut you off.
No. And listen, these are my thoughts based on my experiences. I expect everyone hearing this to take this and level it up. Yep. I know what I know based on I'm a product of my environment. Yep. That's all I know, right? You're a product of your environment. Yep. You may have seen the world in a different way, and that's everybody's superpower, perspective. Yep. Perspective can't be taken away from us. Right. Like, we can either be, led by our fears or led by love, right? And what are you creating? What are you making better after this time that we're here? So I do think about that a lot, especially into now, and just creating spaces, even virtually right now, even with Brunch for Us. You know what I mean? It's, a lot of the times I don't want to be even for those conversations, I need like days to do my homework and research because I'm not an expert.
Right.
I may be an expert in culture or, executive in marketing, but the truth is the learning never stops.
Right.
So I still got to do my homework to be able to talk about certain topics and make sure I'm not spreading misinformation because that's a real thing. Every influencer has a responsibility.
Absolutely.
Every person has a responsibility. If you have followers, you have a responsibility, right? To promote like legitimate things that create opportunity for understanding.
Yep.
We're not always doing that because sometimes we're led with fear.
Right.
Right. So, what are we doing to just leave the world better than how we found it? I think everybody has to answer that question for themselves.
Absolutely. And you touched on a few things. I'm sorry. And that's it. No, bro, you're doing great because you're leading me even into my points.
Excellent.
On my
script. Great.
That we're not off track at all. But I think what's important to me in the vein of this conversation is the authenticity, right? And authenticity is something that we speak about, especially when it comes to working for a brand or working with a brand. And you've managed to maintain your authenticity, to maintain your point of view in working in very strenuous situations and just done with different companies, different titles, different job obligations. I want to talk about that, right? Like because there's a line with everything, right? So it's like we talk about curating these spaces, creating community, right? And there's this baseline of authenticity. Has there ever been a time for you that your authenticity has been challenged or even superseded by, let's say, a brand's mission or a brand's KPI or like the overall brand mission?
The short answer is absolutely.
Okay.
You got to know the ledge, but you don't know the ledge if you don't have a center. So let me get to chopping this fable real quick. So
we got time.
So essentially, Jazz Fly once said,
rest in peace, Jazz.
Rest in peace, the beautiful, brilliant Jazz Fly. She said, it's such an important time to know yourself because today you can get pulled in any direction. So knowing yourself is a power. I paraphrase that a little bit. And, I came into a lot of these spaces with a specific skill set or discipline. And when you're in these rooms, they tell you what they want, but they don't tell you how to get it. So you have to figure out somewhere between the what's right and what's right for you. And you have to be a storyteller. Sometimes that means being loose with your tactics and how you go about achieving it, but being stern with your MVPs and why. Because when you could talk about the why and lead it back to the story you're telling, whether it's rooted in culture or business, because authenticity does matter. That is the lead insight to most of these decks.
Absolutely.
Authenticity matters. If you're not present, you're irrelevant. And add value. Those are three of the insights that, Gen Z millennials care about, right? In any category, in any space. So what are you doing now? Where are you? Where have you been? And where do you want to go? Right. So when my authenticity, I think to a certain extent, gets challenged, it's an opportunity for me to realign on what I always believe in. There's always an opportunity for your thoughts, your MVPs to be challenged. Oh, shit, maybe I could be a little bit more lenient in my thoughts here because things are evolving. right? It's just so interesting as a country, we're rooted in laws that were made when we were, 3/5 of a human being, right? So, but that's not necessarily how marketing works.
Right.
There's always an opportunity to tell a story that's relevant, that can knock business KPIs out, return on investment, and leave a mark, create a platform for people to build on from a cultural standpoint. So, yeah, a lot of times if your authenticity isn't challenged, you're probably not taking hard enough clients.
Right.
Like, some of the brand managers, and having been one, some of the brand managers are really smart, really book smart, very CPG smart, but they have no idea what the culture looks like on the other side. And they're getting a crash course in it post George Floyd, rest in peace, you know what I mean? And if you're not close enough to the fire, you're not getting burned, you're probably taking really safe routes, which probably means you don't matter, and it shows because your share of conversation is probably very low on social media. So there's usually a trail on why. You ask those questions and say, oh, this is why we're trending down. This is why we're not top 3 in the category. This is why we're being passed over in consideration for another brand. And it could be apparel, it could be spirits, it could be food. You know what I mean? What story are you telling? And does anybody care about the story you're telling?
Right.
So I throw a bunch out there.
That's a point in just marketing in general, right? Like I don't think it's a secret that the best marketers are great storytellers.
100%.
Right? You've made your bones there. I've made my bones in storytelling. I center everything I do around storytelling, right? If there's not a story to tell, more than likely I won't be able to sell it. So that's no secret. And where we sit now with brands, like every brand knows that, right? We need a story, we need a story, we need a story. The George Floyd situation happens, and because we're going there, where you got a bunch of black boxes, you got a bunch of we stand with you, we see you, we hear you, we have unlearning to do. And I'm not talking about from individuals. This is coming from brands.
Yep.
I want to put you in the CMO seat at one of these brands, not the head of diversity and inclusion. I want to put you in the CMO seat. Post George Floyd, you have to sell alcohol. Do you touch it at all? Or do you touch it? Do you touch it directly? Like, do you go directly at it? Do you go at it the indirect route with talking about what you're going to build up in the community and do it that way? Or do you not touch it at all?
Yeah, the last part you said about not touching it at all isn't an option.
Yep, I agree.
Part of being a good marketer is storytelling, but also looking at the data, being fact-based, having the right insights. And anyone can look at where their sales are trending and say, oh, it's our sales are primarily coming from this community. What are we doing for that community? So right now what they're doing for us is helping us move boxes. What are we doing for them? Even if I'm a category like gin, which is growing in the, for example, and just not a knock on any category specifically, which is growing in the African American community from a just a artisanal standpoint, like a cocktail standpoint. They're still humans.
Because we are getting more into craft cocktails.
Craft cocktails. There is still an opportunity to approach it from a human standpoint, because injustice anywhere is a threat to injustice everywhere, right? Absolutely. So, you listen. First and foremost, you listen to people. Like if I'm in the spirits game, I'm where are my feet on the ground? I'm looking at the bartenders. I'm looking at the event plans. I'm looking at the influencers that we have partnerships and relationships with, and I want to sit down and understand what's going on. Unfortunately, I do it virtually.
Right.
How do you feel? Right. What is important to you? What do you expect of a brand? Don't just single us out as an alcohol brand. Why? Because I remember even in coming up with strategies. We compared alcohol to cologne. We compared alcohol to high-end cars. So this bottle is going to be the one that people raise in VIP because it's an extension of them. It's a badge. So we don't just exist in the the bank accounts. We don't just exist in the supermarkets in California or in the nightclubs. You see what happened with like the Clase Azules and all. You know what I mean?
It's aspirational.
It's aspirational. You're either meeting people where they are or where they want to be. So there is a responsibility to understand how you show up, to understand how people are looking for you to show up. And then you're looking at your team and say, do we have the assets to show up and to meet people where they are? If not, we can't really be talking about Black Lives Matter or, diversity without really being what we say we want to be about. So we have to make strides. And I do think there's a little bit of a need to give corporate some grace because corporate will never move at the speed of culture.
Right.
It's impossible. Culture is ever moving. Nobody owns, controls culture. We all contribute to it, some much more than others.
Right.
So it is the responsibility of a CMO to listen and then to have actionable strategies that lead to blank. And it's not just we want to hire more Black people. We're going to put percentages around what it means to hire more BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color. Like we want to increase our workforce 25% in BIPOC in this region by the end of the fiscal year. Like you have to make very tangible goals and aspire towards them. And that's where the results are because again, this story has three parts: where I've been, where I'm at, and where I want to go. Yep. And, one doesn't work without the other two. So, or two doesn't work without any one of those.
Right. And it's so crazy to be living in the world that we live in now, right? And you see the world as you see the world as a marketer. You see the world as, a partnership person, but you see the world as a Black man first, right? That's how you were introduced to the world, as a Black man. So in seeing that, in being in the rooms that you've been in, being at the companies you've been at, consulting with companies that you've consulted with, what's the disconnect between, because we talk about, like, what are we doing for those people? We know what they're doing for us, right? Like, we see companies actively trying to make it happen, but there's still a disconnect with the culture and corporate. And you may not have the answer, you may have the answer, but there is a real rooted disconnect still, because even if we do hire a larger percentage of Black, Indigenous people of color, even if, we have more Black people in the C-suite, right? These companies are still fundamentally rooted in another ideology, right? So we're still seen as radical. We're still seen as bringing. So, like, what is that actual disconnect, in your opinion?
A couple things. There's this Jadakiss line. I can't remember what song it's from. I think he goes, I'm too Black for MTV, not Black enough for BET. Come on, let me be. And you said something funny. Well, not funny. As a Black man, growing up, I'm West African. I'm Ghanaian. But as I was growing up, to my African cousins, I was a Yankee because I wasn't eating the food as much. They still love me. I wasn't eating the food as much. But, when I step outside, my name is still Dela Yador. Right?
But you're American.
But I'm American, right? I'm Black. Like, I could walk around and you're not going to see my name. You see me, right? I think when it comes to the disconnect in corporate, some of that disconnect is rooted around the lack of alignment sometimes between sales and marketing, because marketing is so far ahead, but sales still needs to move. And there's a level of empathy that needs to be had between both, because marketing is able to move way faster, even though it's still too slow for culture than sales is. But when you think about it, some local, like, respectfully, when I think about the markets that I had instant success in, Chicago, Detroit, DC, and Atlanta. And because the audience was primarily the audience that was buying the product. So you have to serve them. There's no in between. LA and New York are challenging, right? These very layered markets. So I think that, it's so tricky, right?
And that was a loaded question.
No. It's a great question because I think because there's so many levels. My role as multicultural marketing manager when I was at Pernod at the time, the reason I was able to get from that role to the prestige luxury role was because I created the alignment between culture, influencer, and high net worth individual. That if you're an influencer, you're still buying this $400 bottle of whatever. PJ, right? It was PJ. Yeah.
Very easy way.
We were still drinking PJ,
Great
right?
champagne.
Yeah, great champagne. But connect that to the high net worth individual that the prestige team wants. So we're not far apart. It's almost like the Walk This Way video. It's exactly like the Walk This Way video. Like, we may be
That's
different.
every brand's dream.
Every brand's dream is to get that, right? What is the new version of that? And what does a brand have to relinquish in order to achieve that type of symbiotic relationship, right? Because we know in partnership, you want someone with a network, you want someone with connections, you want someone who's an active influencer that you can sort of align on what the goals are. I think the same thing remains true for sales and marketing. So I think in the beginning of the year, it's usually everybody's tight in line. COVID shakes things up, shook things up, right? Absolutely. So I'm very intrigued to see how people bounce back in a retail world, which is primarily online now. And I'm sure that the data is already out there and flourishing. Off-premise sales, and specifically in liquor, are way up, but the values in the on-premise, that's where the markups are, right? And people were getting locked down again. And I don't want to date this, but you get what I'm saying. So
it's happening. By the time people see this, we'll be in lockdown.
What a time. Oh, my God. Yeah.
And it's interesting. As we talk about even that piece, and like I don't want to go so granular with people that we're talking over people, but the sales and marketing conversation is an episode within itself of like they treat it like church and state, right? And this is everywhere. This is at spirit companies. I've worked for huge publishing companies. Same thing, right? And it's like, you would almost assume that one leads the other. Right. And technically, marketing, they're doing the storytelling, they're getting people to the product, right? Like, they should be leading the conversation. But in theory, they both work hand in hand, right? Like, you're not able to market without the sales team selling shit,
right.
And you're not able to sell something that isn't marketed well. And I don't even think this is a question. I'm just kind of just facts, right? So like with marketing and sales, and then you're now trying to connect it into like a social conversation with we talk about the George Floyd stuff, right? And then we talk about just the condition of the world with COVID.
Yep.
What if anything, like if you were let's say if you were still the brand manager of one of your brands at Pernod, once you saw how everything shook out post George Floyd, what would your strategy have been to not only move cases but to still move culture, right? Because like I think you can move culture without moving cases. You can't move cases without moving culture. So what would have been your strategy on that?
I think it's interesting in storytelling, and I feel like it's starting to change right now. when you're entering culture with your brand, whatever brand it is, I know specifically we're talking about spirits, but for whatever brand it is, you have to assess what your role is in this story. You know, I used to, so I talk to myself, I say, you know, am I the main character in this story or am I a supporting actor? You know, what is my role here? Where do I fit in? And I think it's really important for brands to understand that when it comes to culture, you're not always the big piece of steak.
Yep.
You know, sometimes you are the amazing roasted mashed potatoes, right? You know, sometimes you're the asparagus. You know, you're the Brussels sprouts. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you still have a part. You have a part to play in the storytelling. Like, I think back to Pepsi, Kendall Jenner, right? and like, you know, I know everybody trashed
Legendary
them.
moment.
Legendary moment.
For all the wrong reasons.
Yo, everybody trashed them. But in my as a marketer, I'm kind of like, man, I know what you guys were thinking. The execution, the how was all off.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And no brand ever wants to be there. Luckily, Pepsi's big enough to, like, you know, skirt that. They can dissolve that, right? They can get around that. I think that when it comes to marketing and sales, specifically in that conversation, the two work hand in hand. And what I would have done from a brand manager standpoint is I would have, again, done the listening, looking at the culture as it is, understand that we are not the main. What are we doing to help? Right. This is not a sales opportunity.
It's not about us.
Nah.
It's not about us.
Smart words.
Right. It's not about us.
What are we doing to lend and add value to this situation and help people create? Because we know in times of tragedy, unrest, creativity is high.
Yep.
So what can we do to give? Yep. But we're not just showing up like, here, we got you. Like, we're listening. That's what I think it's important for every brand to have tentacles in culture. It's not optional anymore.
Yep.
Have your influencer network, your people in the street, like on the streets. You know what I mean? Who are they? Like, tell me what's going on. Help me assess this. You're either going to have really smart brand managers, brand directors, VPs, or you're going to have a really connected agency.
Right.
And those two together can make magic, right? I have the numbers, the analytics. I give it to you. You create the strategy. You get it over to us. We create the story. We disseminate it through. Sales has obviously its own marching orders, but we're aligned in how it comes to life. You know what I mean? So, you know, listening is so important, but then also understanding that, you know, that removal of ego is still relevant in culture as well, or in corporate rather as well.
It's huge. With your experience, you've built a company, Soil Media LLC. You focus in building community, giving access to information, and also connecting and building partnerships within culture and corporate, right? So to me, this feels like your life's work, right? And there's something to be said about doing your life's work or doing what you're passionate about, right? Or building your craft. But there's something deeper to it, which is you've been doing this with great intention and great purpose. Speak to the importance of moving with intention and purpose when it comes to honing your craft and how it helps and how it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, you know, I could say that sometimes the best stories that are told are the ones you live through. So, SOIL, which stands for School of Influence and Leadership, really, to what you said, is just a reflection of my journey and seeing how easy it is for other people to get caught in that journey as well. And as you've said many times, when you share something, you don't lose it. So authenticity is key, and being able to hone in on something that I didn't know I was working on or working towards. It's kind of surreal. I don't think Soil didn't hit me in the head until November 2018. And I knew that it would be, you know, the end of my run at my last gig. And I knew that there was an opportunity, and I knew that it felt like something I had said, yeah, but I'll get to it later. And I knew that I had no more time to say that.
Right.
I had to run out of time.
Right.
And not from a pressure standpoint, but from this is needed.
Yep.
It's needed. Community is needed. And truth be told, the community is being built every day, you know, and it starts with these random shouts to Rick, random acts of kindness everywhere.
Shout out to Raconia.
But like you need people to give and to add, right? Like, you know, it's no longer optional. This quote that I love, it's don't try to focus on what the world needs. Mm-hmm. What the world needs is your light. Mm-hmm. Focus on your light. I think it's something that I've been doing the work on as of recently, especially you recommending, you know, therapy. After hearing it for a while, actually getting into it. And after we're talking about that before, just the concept of don't dim your light. Give yourself some credit. Mm-hmm. You've learned a lot. Mm-hmm. And lean into that.
Yep. You are worthy.
You are worthy. Whew.
You are worthy.
You are worthy. So, that authenticity, this sort of feels like the culmination, and I'm excited to be on this journey. It's a little scary, but it's supposed to be, right?
Absolutely.
You're supposed to, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough, right? So here we are.
And that's just so special, man, it's special for a number of reasons to have your own thing, to be filling a void and a need for so many, right? Because I feel like what you're doing in the space, at least from my knowledge, no one else is doing, and no one else is doing it the way that you're doing it. And that's always been you. Is like either no one else is doing it, or no one else is doing it the way that you're doing it. So I've learned, again, from you, even in this conversation, just some key things, which is be authentic, be aware, and, you know, just those two things alone, be authentic and be aware, will get you further than being the smartest, than having the most resources, and like you've built your own path very uniquely, and I think that, you know, one, as your friend, I want to give you your flowers for that, but as a student, like I've watched everything you've done over the years, and to see Soil, like I kind of just like did an eye roll when I first saw it. Like, of course. Like, a fucking course. And the name is
a fucking
perfect.
acronym.
I was like, a fucking course.
And, you know, this shirt, I like this is, I love
and
this.
we got to get a zoom on that shirt.
Yo, shouts to B Mike New Orleans. What up, Project B? Incredible work.
Yes.
They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds.
And I was saying even that, like the acronym of SOIL and School of Influence and Leadership, right? So it's you were preaching those things at your gig, right? You preach them in culture. You preach them via your platforms, like real influence, real leadership. And now you have a company that represents that, right? And that's what using your gifts really is, right? That's when people tell you use your powers for good, that's what they mean, right? And you've always done that, right? And I think as you mature and as you evolve and as you season, you're figuring out ways to do it better and more impactful. And I think for you, the journey is just beginning. It's a pleasure to witness it. You know, thank you for talking to me about it and teaching me as you always have. Like I don't humble myself enough to learn from people like this, but I've had the pleasure of learning from you for almost 20 years.
Sick. 20 years is sick. Yo, bro, I don't even think I have facial hair when I'm a kid.
We're 2 years away. We're 2 years away from 20 years of friendship, which which I even that's crazy to say. Like I felt like you were my friend the day I met you.
Right, real
you
rap,
know,
real
and
rap.
that speaks to you and your character because I don't feel that way about many people in life. So
I'll tell you this, man. You ain't gonna out humble me.
I will. I will.
You've taken some chances that while I've taken chances, you took them in a different school. And I always look at the youth. I don't consider you youth, even though you're younger.
I would love if you considered me youth. I would love that. You considered me the youth.
Motherfuckers are fearless.
Yeah.
You're fearless, and you're bold, and you see the world in a different way. And that's why I'm while I say what I say based on what I've known, I always leave it up for challenge because times change, people change, sensibilities change, morals, values, and principles, MVPs change a little bit less.
Yep.
But I can say that I'm always up for like an interpretation on what I've done or said to be taken to another level. Like teach me back. And you've done that. Like dog, you were in Barclays.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I appreciate just the years of seeing that and just the communication we've had through the ups and downs of all of it, because there've been plenty of both. And we're still here and still growing. And it's funny, whenever I talk about energy, there's actually an acronym behind that, because I like acronyms. Typical, right? Everything's fine, I swear. Energy.
Yeah.
NRG. Never regret growing. Like we have to evolve. Like we're always so afraid. That's that, leading with love and leading with fear. Like, when some people are I got another quote for you. But we're here.
No, this is going to be full of
there's a couple. This is yesterday's. It was like, people who were raised on survival see the world differently than people who were raised on love.
Absolutely.
And, we can't regret evolving and the evolution. And some of those parts of the journey that we didn't want to take, that were actually the parts that we needed to be on to prepare us for the next step, right?
Absolutely.
Some of the things that got us to this level aren't the things that'll get us to the next level. So reading the room is really important. Being kind to yourself, giving yourself some grace, and don't ever regret the growth that comes in this journey, man. And as I'm saying this, I'm not necessarily saying it because I'm an expert. I'm saying it because you allow me the platform to say these things, and it's a reminder back to me, like, oh shit, this is God talking through you, and the platform here is really important to continue this conversation and share it. So, thank you for letting me share. This is I really appreciate this, brother.
Absolutely, bro. And I think to even piggyback further on your quotes about
3, 2,
growth.
1.
No. About growth. I think something that's important to walk away from this conversation with, that I'm walking away from it with, is that you're being prepared for what's prepared for you.
All right, I'm gonna tap out.
And
that's the one. That's the one, my nigga. That's the one.
So as we talk about, growth, right? We talk about all of this uncomfortability, all of this learning, right? All of this evolving, right? What we don't talk about, right? We talk about the beauty of it. We never talk about how difficult it is. And the sauce to life is that everything that you want is on the other side of difficulty, right? Like I have a great quote from PR, which is like, everything you want in life is on the other side of discipline, right? And discipline is so hard, right? But what we don't know is, as we're going through these things that are painful, right? Like we're going through these things, we're going through the path less taken, right? Or we're taking risk, or we're doing things that people wouldn't imagine to do. And it's just preparing you for what's prepared for you, right? Because you're not like, contrary to what people say, you don't get something unless you're prepared for it in actuality, right? Like, you may get something and lose it, that wasn't the thing for you in an instance, right? Or you may get something, you may have great success at something and think that's the thing, but then it might just be preparing you for something else, right? So you as a person, and we spoke about this earlier off camera, more important than what you do, what you accomplish, what dots you connect is who you are and how you are, right? And that's something that we want to hammer home with Handcrafted, with these type of conversations, is the who, right? Like, who sits in this chair is so important, and not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. Everything that we've run through, accomplishments wise, everything that we've run through career wise, it's a result of who you are. And that's where the importance of these type of conversations lie. And then, like, people be who you are, be comfortable in who you are, but also be willing to grow in who you are, because that preparation is preparing you for what's prepared for you. I can't take credit for that quote.
I'm gonna quote you in the morning. I'm gonna quote you my morning quote.
I won't cite my source. They want to stay anonymous, but I got that quote in the conversation, and it shook me up because. We're all going through transition in this pandemic. The world is going to be different. Like, the world that we just spoke about, we'll never know again. So to know that, and to know that something is on the other side, but to know that you're doing the necessary things so that what's on the other side is greater for you, is so important. And man, this was a phenomenal conversation.
Thank you.
I feel like this is me and you on the phone for 2 hours,
essentially,
like regular.
Just a microphone, couple cameras.
Yeah, that's it. Just a few cameras, some wine,
stage crew.
a whole thing, a whole to do, as my mom would say, a whole to do. But before we go, there's this is probably the most important part of the conversation to me, as we talk about evolution and we talk about growth, we talk about building a craft. Dela, here in 2020, I'm going to put you on that black couch over there. Mm-hmm. You're sitting next to 7-year-old Dela. You have all of your experience, you have all of your tools, you have all of your knowledge. Mm. I had in my notes 3 things, but that's too much. Like, 7-year-olds have ADD. Their attention goes all over the place. So if there was one thing you would want 7-year-old Dela in the Bronx in 1990 to know, what would that thing be?
Trust yourself. Trust yourself. In meeting so many different people, and I'm grateful to meet just people from a few different walks of life. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to have your perspective challenged and feel like it's not complete enough, or it's not inclusive enough, or it's not, there's not enough range. You ain't got the range. Yeah. Just trust yourself. Yeah. Trust your gut. I'm trusting it now. And I appreciate those that have trusted it earlier, that have just reached out on that branch for the good fruit, because the good fruit's at the end of that branch. Why wouldn't you reach for it? Right. You know what I mean? So now that I'm doing it, I feel like I'm doing things that I wasn't really even doing in my 20s. Like, it was just, wow, that's God, because the way this knee works. Yeah. It's only God. It's only God, you know what I mean? So trust yourself, and trust in the experiences you had. You're a product of your environment. Listen. But then, after you're done listening and taking notes, trust yourself. Go. Yeah.
That's great advice. And that's something I would tell my younger self. That's something I would tell you now. As we continue to climb, as we continue to live, right? Because I think even that, like, we put so much of a focus on doing, climbing, and building, right? Like, just live. As you continue to live, trust yourself, and you don't have all that you have for no reason, right? Like, all of these things that you've acquired over time, like, they're meant to be used and they're meant to be put to use. So in trusting yourself, you allow those things to be used. So that's amazing advice.
Thank you, man.
Bonus question.
Sure.
This I don't think this makes it on the episode, but this will make it into a reel that we'll do. Mm-hmm. And this is just as we talk about movies, television, sports, and this is just helping me with just psychoanalysis of the world. Who is your favorite TV character of all time, any genre of television, any show, any network, and why?
So there's a few ways that I can go with this. I'm going to go the honest route because I was a big Ninja Turtles fan, and Raffaello was my first favorite Ninja Turtle.
Same.
Right?
That was actually my same.
Yeah, he was rebellious, so it's on brand.
Yeah.
It's on brand for us, right?
It's my spirit animal.
I appreciate Jim Smarts in The Office. Mm-hmm. He just knows what's going on. He knows where the camera's at. He reads the room, right? But I gotta say, from the road less travel standpoint, I appreciate Jon Snow a lot. Mm-hmm. Most people watching this probably knew I was going to say that. It's a big surprise.
But there are a lot of people who are going to watch this who don't know you.
Okay. All right. Well, then for you guys, Jon Snow is my favorite character, man. Like, for some reasons, including bravery, and it's fictional, right? But including just doing the work. And even when there was no glory in it, I guess I can sort of relate to sort of I don't want it, right? And being put in that role. Like, I've been cool with being a soldier as long as I believe in the war. You know what I mean? But and then sometimes you're just the one that needs to lead it. There's this good book, great book, Seth Godin, Tribes, We Need You to Lead Us. And it talks a lot about, stepping up to the plate. Reading the room, understanding what people are looking for, and understanding the times that we're in. Seth Godin's amazing author, marketer, genius. But Jon Snow is definitely someone who, even at the end where people may have thought things didn't work out the way he wanted it to, they actually did.
They absolutely did.
And I've been sort of relinquishing my ideal of what the universe wants for me and just leading in purpose. And so I'm just here to do my part, and hopefully I don't end up north with the wildlings. That's not the goal. Don't put me there. That's not where I want to be. But I appreciate his bravery and doing what he needs to do when he needs to do it. There's always the difference between doing what's right and doing what's right for him, and he usually did what's right. So I appreciate that.
That is not a surprise to me, but on par answer and an absolutely accurate one for not only you but how you choose to live and how you choose to be, and that couldn't make more sense, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Again.
Appreciate
Thank
this.
you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for
toast
salute.
you real quick.
I got some
Cheers,
left in
brother.
there.
The energy. Yo, 10 years ago, this is empty. There's 3 more bottles in the back.
Yes.
But evolution.
Evolution. Doing things that you want to do.
Energy.
And doing them how you want to do them.
Here for it.
Yeah.
Cheers, brother.
Yo, cheers. Yeah, that's some good rosé. Can't wait till they pay me for it.
Let's figure that partnership out. Let's get to the bag. Let's get it.
Thank you, man. This is great.